Hey, what is up, guys? Welcome back to the channel and welcome to episode 19 of our Firebase 3 real-time chat application video tutorial. Kind of feels like forever since I've last recorded one of these coding session videos, so do apologize if I am kind of rusty as I'm trying to get back into the groove of coding live again. So let's go ahead and start with what we want to make inside of today's video lesson. So to start, I'm going to show you what we have in the simulator, and we're logged in as Jon Snow currently with two chat logs going on, one for Sam Tarley and the other one for Ygritte. And Sam Tarley contains a couple of different varying messages. Some are text and some are images. So that was all done in the last episode and probably the episode before as well. So nothing new here. What we want to implement today is the exciting part. And I have on my phone what you're seeing on the left side inside of QuickTime. And as I tap on one of these images here, you notice how it kind of zooms in. And then if you tap on it again, it kind of zooms out, right? So quite nifty, quite cool. You see a lot of this type of animation inside of even Facebook's app. It kind of zooms in and you can dismiss it by dragging it down. So we're going to learn how to actually zoom in the image like this today. And that's what we're going to do. So not actually all that hard. It just takes a lot of many steps. And I'm going to show you exactly how to perform all these tiny little steps to get to this final animation here. So there we go. And so some of you guys have seen my previous video where I show you how to do this with frames and CG Rex. So to make it a little bit more interesting, I'll show you guys how to do this with iOS 9 constraints so that the layout actually performs a little better. So let's get started with the current project right here. I'm just going to run it, make sure we have something good to start out on. And here we go. We have Sam Tarley, and clicking on here, nothing happens. So the first thing I want to do is to actually trigger a print statement every time I click on one of these images here. And to do that, we go into chat message cell, go to this message image view guy here, and I'm going to add a tab gesture recognizer on image view. So image view, add gesture recognizer, UI tab gesture, target, self, and selector is pound selector with a function of handle zoom tap. I think that's a good name for our function here. And zoom tap I'll create as a function down here. And there we go. So now what do? We can actually add a tab gesture in here as the parameter for this selector function. And here we go. And if we want to actually use this self variable here, you see how it's giving us a compiler error. We actually need to say lazy var. So don't get too hung up on what this means. Just know that the self works kind of like this. All right. So to also trigger this tab gesture recognizer, some of you guys probably know this already, but you have to set user interaction enabled equals true. Now, if you look at the property and you look at the documentation on the right, you can actually see that it's defaulted to false right there. So let's make sure to turn it on in order for the interaction to work. So we're running, and you notice if I click on this, you would expect that print statement to show up, but you don't see it, or you expect something to occur. For example, print handling zoom tap. Yeah. And here we go. Let's run it and make sure the print statement shows up or not. And we click and click, 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 click. So you notice how the print statement doesn't show up. And that's because this text view is actually on top of the image. So if I do, for example, background color equals UI color dot yellow color and run this, you'll see that the yellow is actually on top of it. And the reason why it's invisible is because it's clear color over here. So toggling it to yellow now, you'll see this right here. And if you click on the edge, you'll see that you have the zooming tap being printed on the bottom. So to fix this minor issue, let's go to chat log controller. And inside of, I think it's cell for row at, or cell for item at index path, we call this method called setup cell, I think. Or even down here, we can actually do this. So if it's a text message, so this is a text message and not a image message, we can actually say cell.textView.hidden equals false. And then down here, we'll say cell.textView.hidden equals true. And this is just going to toggle the visibility of that yellow text view every time we render one of these message cell guys. And here we go. So that's pretty nice. If we go back to chat message cell, remove this yellow color guy, we should be okay. So tap, 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 we get this guy here. Now I want to kind of let you guys in on something that I'll call a pro tip here. So pro tip, don't perform a lot of custom logic inside of a view class. Okay, so this chat message cell is a view class, and we don't want to handle or perform all this zooming animation that zooms in these cell images inside of this view class. We actually want to perform it inside of a chat log controller. So basically, we want to delegate the zooming animation to the controller class. And that's the tip of the day. And to do that, we actually need to get a reference to this chat log controller somehow. And how do we do that, right? Well, first we have to do this here. So where's cell for item at index path? I want to actually give the reference on this cell, this chat message cell guy, this cell. I want to say something like chat log controller equals self, right? But we can't do this yet because cell doesn't have this property on it. So why don't we go back to the cell, and then on the top, give it this property here. Let's see, var chat log controller is chat log controller, optional like that. And there we go. So now this cell has a reference to the chat log controller. And if we go all the way down, here is my zooming logic, so my custom zooming logic. And this will be a function called handle or perform zoom in for image view. And this will be image view, UI image view. Okay. All right. Perhaps this should be called starting image view. This will be a little bit clearer as I type out the logic in here. So image view. All right. So I have this function here now, and I'm going to copy this function. And inside of chat messages cell, where am I printing this handle tap zoom guy? Inside of here, I'm going to call self.chatLogController and that function there. So let me build perform zoom in for starting image view. And what is this image view guy here? Well, this image view is actually whatever I tapped on, right? So to get to that view, all we have to do is say let image view equals tap gesture dot image view. That gives us the view, and we can actually cast it down to a UI image view like that. So what we actually need to do is say image view bang, I believe. Let's see what that'll do. So if I run this application now, you'll see the chat log controller do nothing actually. So why don't we add some code in here that will print out performing zoom in logic in controller. Okay, so that looks pretty good. I'm going to run the application and verify that this print statement is actually being printed out. So click, 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 performing zoom in logic in controller. All right, good stuff. So going back to the chat message cell, you're going to remove that print statement here. If you actually wanted to do this a little bit safer, you can unwrap it like this and move this code in here. And I think we can remove the bang. All right, pretty good. This way it doesn't crash if the image view is not a UI image view class. So good stuff. Now going back to this chat log controller, we actually want to perform some bit of code to actually render out the zoom logic. So let me just unlock my phone here and want to perform this zoom, right? So how do we do this? Because it's pretty tricky if you don't split it up into a couple of different steps. So the first step is to actually perform a rendering of a red view on top of the actual clicked image like that. So this will actually require us to figure out the frame for this image view, which isn't too hard. And then we add this red view into the entire application. So I'm going to show you how to do that right now inside of this function here. So let's see. Let's use a variable called StartingFrame. So StartingFrame is going to equal starting image view dot superView. So I'm going to type this out first. Convert rect, and this will say starting image view dot frame is the rect and view is nil. So let's just print out what the starting frame is, and then I'll kind of perhaps explain to you what this does. So let's run the application, and here we go. We get our Sam Tarley chat log, and if we click this right here, you notice how it says that the frame for this entire cell is at 167, 118. So that's 167 and 118. Click down here. You notice how the Y value keeps going down, which is good. And this is exactly the frame inside of the entire application. And that'll be helpful to us because we will want to add this frame right there inside of the entire app. So why don't we create that red block and add it into the application? And let's do it by creating a zooming image view equals UI image view with this frame constructor here. And we can actually call starting frame like this. I think we need to unwrap it like that. So there we go. And if we set a zooming image view that background color equals UI color of red color like that, we can now add this subview or add this view into the entire application by first getting the window of the app by calling UI application shared application key window. Okay, so it says the app's key window right there, and this basically is a UI window class which you can actually call add subview on. So add subview, it actually has this method. We can add zooming image view. So if we just do this right now and run the application, you'll see the zooming image view appear right on top of the image that we click on. So even that right there and this. So that's how we get this to work. And I'm going to actually modify this a little bit by first giving us a reference to the key window by saying if let key window equals UI application shared application key window. And this way I can actually do this logic a little easier. So let's perform the add subview in here instead, zooming image view. Okay, so that's nice. And so nothing has changed. And now what do we want to do here? So I'm just run this and verify that everything works as it should. So nothing too fancy yet. Click, click, click. And so the next step to this animation is to zoom it into the middle like this. So I want to zoom this guy into the middle right here. So to perform a zooming type of animation, we call UI view, animate with duration. And let's just get a little fancier with this animation right here. So duration is perhaps 0.5, delay is 0, options is curve ease out is the one I like to use, out like that. And here is the animation block, and completion, I think we can just say nil for now. And okay, so in order to perform this animation, we need to set the frame inside of this block. So what is this new frame, right? Well, we know the width of this frame, which is just the entire application's width. So what we do is we say zooming image view dot frame equals something. So this will be CG rect, and we'll use X, Y like this. So we say X and Y is X, Y is 0. And for the width, we'll say key window dot frame dot width, and the height, let's just use StartingFrame.height for now. And I think we need to unwrap this guy there, and we should be good. So let's run this, and you'll see the image actually zoom from the middle to the top, I believe. So let's do that, that, and that. So that's how this kind of works, right? So how do we get it to the center? Well, you can actually just set zooming image view.center equals key window.center, I believe. And that should be enough. So we are still left with actually figuring out what the correct height should be. So I'm gonna hit that and that. So that takes it to the center. And all we're missing is the height right now. All right, and I'm gonna show you one thing. If I flip the simulator, let's see what happens. So if I flip it, you notice that the actual red view is no longer in the correct place. So I'm gonna fix that a little later as well. First, we have to figure out what this, the height of this red thing is. And to just kind of show you why we need the correct height, we'll say zooming image view dot image equals starting image view, this guy, image right there, and let's run. So I'm gonna show you what that does. So instead of the red, we'll actually get the image that we're trying to zoom. So we'll do that, and we get that. So you notice how the image is kind of squeezed, right? And that's because the height is not correct. So the correct height is actually derived from the kind of the calculation of similar rectangles again. And we know three values. We know the starting width and the starting height, and then we know the ending width, and all we're missing is the ending height. So the math for this, I know that you guys love math, so here's the math. We say h2 over h1 equals, h2 over w1 equals h1 over w1. And then we solve for h2 equals h1 over w1 times w1. So I'm just bringing the w1 over to the right side is what this math is doing. So I'm going to say let height equals, so h1 and w1 is actually the starting frames within height. So h1 will be starting frame dot height over starting frame dot width, and then we multiply by key window dot frame dot width, I believe. So I think that looks okay. I think we need to unwrap these guys here, unwrap that. And then what do we do here? We change this to actually that height. So we'll use the height there and run the application. Hopefully we should be okay. All right, so click that and we get this, and you see the image is perfectly scaled and zooms in just like that. That's quite nice. All right, I can do this forever, I guess. All right, so what do we want to do next? Well, there's a couple of things that we can do. And first, I want to perhaps animate a black background behind this image here. So let's do that with a black background. And I'm going to go down here inside of the key window here and say let black background view equals UI view. And we'll create this with a frame constructor. And the frame is actually going to be UI or key window. So key window dot frame. And then we'll say black background view dot background color equals UI color of black color. And then I think we can just add it under key window, add sub view. This will say black background view. And this, because we've added it before the zooming image view, it's going to appear behind it because this will have a higher Z index. So it'll be in front. So here we go, click, and we get the black background there. So let's fix the animation first by saying this. So up here we'll say black background view dot alpha equals 0. So it first starts off invisible, and inside of this animation block we'll just say black background view dot alpha equals 1. And you'll see the fading in of the black background immediately after pressing the image down here. So there we go. And pretty nice. So the next thing I want to do is to hide this chat input area down below. So very similarly, we call, I think it's called input container view dot alpha equals 0. So that's going to hide it. And I think we need a self here. So let's say self. And let's see what that'll give us. So running. And upon clicking, I believe the bottom area should fade out like that. So that's quite good. And it's looking a lot closer to what we want to do for our application here. So that's what this looks like. And that looks pretty good. So the next thing to do is to actually handle the action of zooming this thing back out to the center. And I will just very simply do that inside of, let's see, inside of this zoom image view guy here. So I can just say zoom image view dot add gesture recognizer and UI tap gesture. So very similar to the other image view, we just add something every time we want to tap on it. So let's just say target is self, selector will be selector, handle zoom out, I guess. Yeah, that seems to be a good function name. And zoom out will occur right here. Function handle zoom out. And let's just say tap gesture again, UI tap gesture. And in here, we will simply print out zooming out. And what can I do? So I want to remove this print statement here and this print statement here. I don't actually like keeping my print statements in the code because it clutters the console. And when things do appear here that's important, it kind of gets ignored if there's too many messages. Anyhow, click that. And then we actually want to enable user interaction on this image view. So let's say zooming image view user interaction enabled equals true. So I also forget about this property quite a lot whenever I'm coding. And sometimes it trips me up, but after doing this enough times, you kind of get it. And you see zooming out down here. So we need to actually zoom out on this function call right here. So how do we do that? Well, there's a couple of ways of doing this or tackling this issue. And the first thing we need to do is we need to zoom this back to the starting area. So the starting area is this starting frame here. And why don't we keep a reference for the starting frame right above in the class itself. This will be a class property called, or instance property called StartingFrame, I guess. StartingFrame is of type CG_rect. And let's make it optional like that. And we'll say StartingFrame that. And then we now have a reference to the starting frame. I believe this down here needs a self now, and this needs a self as well. I think we are okay. So let's just make sure the code still compiles. So I'm building, it's running, everything looks okay. Hopefully nothing has broken. So that and zoom out, cool. Now, what do we need to do here? First, we need to get the reference to this image view here. And because we have this tap gesture parameter here, let me just remove this. We can say, let's see, let zoom out image view equals tap gesture dot view like that. And we can actually unwrap it like this. This way it's easier to work with. And let's see, zoom image view, and we need to animate back out to controller. And here's what we need to do, UI view, animate with duration, and this will say 0.5, delay of 0, options of curve. Let's see, dot curve is out, animation of, let's see, this here, and okay. So what is the actual animation that we need to do? And I'm going to use a completion block this time around. So this will say completed, bool perhaps. and do something here later. Okay, now the animation is quite simple. We need to reset the zoom out image view.frame equals self.startingFrame. I think we need to unwrap it like that. And let's see what this will actually give us. Okay, so we have this right there, clicking that and clicking here. We see the image kind of zooms back out, and we can't do anything afterwards because everything is still in view. So how do we fix this so that the black also animates out? Well, we need to have a reference to this black background view. So what we do is very similarly to getting the starting frame reference, we'll say var black background view of UI view, I believe. And let's just make it optional there. And if we say delete the let, use this reference instead. And then here we can say optional there, optional there. I think this needs to unwrap like that. And here we go. So you can also unwrap or optional there. And okay. So I believe this also needs a self. And now we have this reference to this black background view. We can go back to the zoom out function and say self.blackBackgroundView.alpha equals 0, which means that the alpha will totally fade out as we are animating our image view out back to its original location. So, okay, let's see, there, and there we go, there. Okay, that was kind of strange. All right, even stranger. All right, so a couple of things that we need to actually fix. Let me just go back here, and you see that this image is still kind of in view when we go back. So what we have to do is we have to, inside of this completion block right here, we will say, actually, let me just remove that. We'll say zoom out image view dot remove from super view. That'll remove it completely. And let's just see what that will give us. Oh. All right. So pretty good so far. Nothing too fancy just yet. So that'll give us that. And if we go back, you notice that the image is gone. So that and that. So one thing I do notice is that the animation is a little, it's a little slow for my taste. And what I actually like to do for my animations is to use an even better animator. So you notice how fast and snappy that is? I actually prefer to use the animation block that does this right here. So let's see, UI view, animate with duration, and use this spring damping function here. So duration will be 0.5, delay of 0. Spring with dampening is 1, velocity is 1, and this will say curve ease out just like before, and enter there, enter there. I think we can say completed, say completed like that, and we'll take this completion block, put it in there, take these two guys, cut it and put it in there, and totally remove that. So this is going to change the zoom out animation style, and you can really tell that the difference is quite significant. So zooming in is a slow style, and zooming out kind of snaps it back. It's like something that has acceleration, and it's much more dramatic than the linear animation style of zooming in. So why don't we also use this for the zooming in as well? So what I'm going to do is copy that animation style, and inside of here, I'm going to perhaps replace this right here. So let's just take all the stuff inside of the animation block, and I'm going to cut that and paste it in here. And for this, you can actually just comment that out. It should be okay. So there we go. And we don't really need this, but I'll leave that comment in there for now. I guess to make it a little better, we'll just say do nothing. Okay, and click in there, we get that. So it zooms in, quite nice. And all right. So one thing that you can do, so let's see, get that right there. And one thing I need to fix is that the chat input area seems to have disappeared. So let's bring this back inside the completion block here on handle zoom out. So inside of this completion block, we'll say self.chat input. So input, let's see, input container view alpha goes back up to 1 perhaps. I think we can even include this inside of the animation block here. So I think we should be okay. And what this is going to do is as it's fading out the black, the input area will come back and fade in. So it goes out like that, and the input area kind of comes back to life. And you can actually still interact with it like that. So pretty good, not too bad. And one thing that you can fix if you're really detail oriented is notice how when I'm zooming out, there's a glimpse of the image, and as I'm zooming in, the image kind of appears, or it's kind of still there, right? So we can actually hide it if we really wanted to kind of make this just a little bit better. So what we can do is, let's just do this here. So we can actually grab a reference to this starting image view and say starting image view, UI image view, like that perhaps. And then up here we can say starting image view is equal perhaps self.starting image view equals this starting image view guy here. And then inside of, let's see, which animation block do I want to use? So when it's animating in, I can actually hide the holder image first. So animating in, I can actually just start saying self.starting image view dot hidden perhaps equals true. So that's going to hide the image as soon as I click onto it, and then I'll unhide it a little bit later. So the application now looks like this, and click on there. You notice how the image is gone, and when we click back out, we need to bring the image view back in. So inside of completion block, all you do is say starting image view dot hidden is equal to false. I think we need a self here. So there we go. And we'll run the application one final time perhaps. And go in there, we get that and that. So that and that. And if you're really, really detail oriented, you notice how the corner radius kind of like snaps back out like that. So it's a rectangle, and then we can actually on zoom out here. So on the zoom out function, we can say, we can call zoom out image view dot layer dot corner radius equals 16, I believe. And I think we also have to say clips to bounds equals true. Otherwise, we don't get the corner radius to take into effect. So hopefully this will make the zoom out a little bit better and avoid that herky jerkiness. So see that right there? The corner radius doesn't seem so abrupt is what I would call it. So good stuff, good stuff. Now, if you're really, really detail oriented, you'll notice that if I take this similar here, zoom it in, and if I try to flip the screen, all this stuff is actually not correct. So I guess you can ignore this input area thing for now, but to actually make it so that, let me see if I click on this, what it'll do. So it does that as well. A lot of minor issues if you want to support landscape mode. So the first thing you can actually kind of do so that the flipping works like this. So what I mean is the black should expand all the way out here, and this view should be kind of centered still. You can actually use constraints instead of these recs and these frames. But because that's quite a bit of code as well, I guess I can either show you guys in another video, or if you guys are really, really interested, I'll paste some code in the description below perhaps. Okay guys, that about wraps it up for today's video. If you enjoyed today's lesson, make sure to give it a thumbs up. In the next video, I'm going to show you guys how to upload a movie message into Firebase and then rendering it as a cell in our chat log controller. Pretty exciting stuff. And last but not least, if you want to download the project for today's video, click on the link on the screen or in the description below. This has been a lot of fun, guys. I'll see you next time.